Yep, it's true. Electric eBikes has just released an upgrade to the XP 2.0, which is very popular. Everybody loves the 2.0 and the step-through and the standard model. This is the 3.0, not the 2.1 or the 2.5. It's just 3.0. I'm not sure why we have a decimal. They've never used it. Well, you might be looking at these bikes and thinking, what's different about them? Because they look very similar to the 2.0, you know, aside from maybe a little bit of a different paint job. But it turns out that there are some significant improvements that they've made to these bikes that we'll cover. Now we'll go through all of the features of the bikes and give you an idea of what to expect if you decide to get one. But there are also a couple of hidden upgrades that I want to talk about. You know, whether you're a first-time rider or an experienced e-bike rider, you know, these improvements are going to benefit you. And I'm going to explain how and why they did what they did. We'll share our experiences with these bikes with you, hopefully answer all the questions that you may have, help you decide whether this is the bike for you, and give you some tips to help you along the way. So let's jump right in. So why have the XP 2.0 e-bikes been so popular in the first place? Now I want to bring this up because the reasons why will also apply to the 3.0 as well. And I've had tons of conversations either online or in person with folks who own the XP 2.0, and you know, they've shared their thoughts with us, so I want to pass this on to you. And you know, we've enjoyed riding our XP 2.0s as well. But first of all, you know, these bikes are really easy to get set up on and ride. You know, there really isn't much you need to do, you know, when you first get it. You know, it comes in a box and it's folded and it's fully assembled, so you really don't have to do much to put it together except unfold it and, you know, take off all the styrofoam and packaging stuff. You insert the handlebars and the seat post and unfold the pedals. Put air in the tires and you're pretty much ready to go. It comes even partially charged in the battery. If you want to get it up to a full charge, then you just plug it in and let it charge up for a while. But it's really easy to get set up on the bike, and you know, once you get started riding it, it's very intuitive and a familiar cycling experience if you've ridden a bike before. You have two different models to choose from. You know, we've got a step-through model, which has been very popular. A lot of folks love their step-through because it's very easy to get in and out of, and it provides an option for folks that, you know, have maybe mobility issues and just can't, you know, get in and out of a bike easily. You also have the other option here, which it's got that center post, and you know, some people might prefer that bike as well. So it's nice to be able to choose between the two. The cool thing about this new version is they're both now available in either black or white. Before, the step-through was white and the black was the standard model. So now you can choose which color you want. And of course, we also know this is a foldable e-bike, so we can fold it up and take it with us. Another thing is that this bike can be ridden as either a Class 2 bike or a Class 3 bike. Now for most folks are going to just ride it as a Class 2 bike, so 20 miles per hour will be the max speed. But if you do want to push it and go faster and really kind of unleash all the power of this bike, you can change a setting in here to switch it to Class 3 mode. It'll basically give you all the power that the motor can provide and push you up to the maximum speed of the bike, if that's something that you want to do. You don't have to ride it that fast, but the capability is there. You know, it just gives you that flexibility to ride the bike and use it in the way that suits you. The final reason, which may be the most significant for a lot of folks, is the fact that this is still a $1,000 e-bike, and you really get a lot of value for that $1,000 price point. Some e-bikes that are very popular out there cost about $2,000. So if you wanted to get a bike for you and your partner, you know, you could do that for around $2,000 and get two bikes that really pack in a lot of value for that money. You know, these bikes are just a lot of fun to ride, and they're easy to operate. Even if you're a first-time e-bike rider, you know, maybe you choose the step through or the other one, you know, getting on the bike and learning how to use the functions and the pedal assist and the throttle and all that stuff is really something you get the hang of pretty quickly.
I recently had a conversation with a friend who is completely intimidated by e-bikes, though she's never ridden one. And it's just based off of the unknown and the fear of riding it. Truly, there's no need to be intimidated or fearful of it. This is actually a really great first e-bike to get started with. But there are a few things that I did when I got started to ease into it and boost my confidence and make me feel very comfortable riding it. I started out not using any pedal assist. So I left it on 0, got on a flat area and just rode it and messed with the gears, kind of did that, and just got comfortable on the bike itself. I make sure that I am pedal assist 0, and that's just regular bike, no assistance, get riding, get comfortable. Then when I'm ready, I will bump it up 1 and I'll go to pedal assist 1. Ride that for a while, change my gears if I need to, and then I could go up to level 2. Feel how that speed increases and how that feels with the gear that I'm in, whether I need to change gears. You can go up to 3. You can go up as high as 5, but I wouldn't recommend when you're starting out going that fast. I would just stay within a couple of the lower gears, and then when I'm done, I find it's important to go down to 0. When you're stopping and you're getting off the bike, I would recommend 0 just so you don't accidentally hit the throttle or do anything that might make that bike go on its own.
When you first get the bike, you'll notice that the display and the controls here are disconnected. So there's a plug here that, you know, is going to be disconnected when you first take it out of the box. Now, before you start using the bike, obviously, you know, you should connect that together, push it together till it's nice and snug. It's a weatherproof connector, and then once you have that plugged in, you'll be able to turn everything on, and you should be good to go. Now, the handlebar and control setup here should be pretty familiar and intuitive, I think. You know, we've got an extra inch or so of width on the 3.0 than the 2.0 had, so it's a little bit wider, which, you know, maybe gives you a little bit more control, a little bit longer on some of these grips. But we have our brakes, our front brake here, our rear brake here, and our shifter. We have a 7-gear shifter. Shift up with this button here, shift down with this thumb control. And our e-bike controls are, you know, right here. Our thumb control here, which turns on and off the display. You just power the unit on with this power button, and we've got a plus and a minus here to adjust a few things like our pedal assist. So on the display, you know, easy to read, we've got our battery monitor, we've got our speedometer, shows us how fast we're going, and this PAS is our pedal assist mode. We can go up to 5 levels of pedal assist and down to 0. Press and hold the plus button, which turns on the headlight and the tail light. So you can see that little indicator there shows you the lights on, turn off again. And there's also a function that I don't really use, but it's there, and it's the walking function, which you hold down the negative or the minus button, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a push while you're walking the bike uphill. So just to know that that's there. Thing here on the bottom, the readout, it'll show you the odometer, but you can change that just by pressing the power button. Change it to a trip meter, change it to a voltage readout. If I press it again, it shows current, which is how much energy we're drawing from the batteries. Now, if you want to enable the Class 3 e-bike mode on this bike, you're going to have to go into the programming mode on the controls. Now, this isn't something most people are going to do, but you have to go in there to unlock Class 3 mode. So here's how to do it. To get in there, you press and hold the plus and minus together, and then we've got a programming mode. Right now at program 1, we want to get to 8. And just press the power button until we get to 8. And what this says is 32 kilometers is the max. We want to change that to 100, which is max power. And once we selected that, we're going to press and hold the power button, and then get out of programming mode by pressing the plus and minus again. Now we'll have to cycle power on the bike to get that to stick. And now we're in class 3 mode, and you can reach max power on the bike if you want. It comes with some nicer cable management. You know, the cable wrap here is really kind of nice, and it just looks much nicer than the 2.0.
Before I go out on any ride, I like to make a few adjustments to the bike to make sure it's set up comfortably for me in the way I ride. The first thing I'll do is I'll adjust the seat. So you can unclip the seat post here and either raise it up or down. I tend to raise it up like a little below my hip. I do have it fairly high. I'd say if you're newer to riding or a little more uncomfortable, I would go just a little bit lower. So just lower it to the height that you like, clip it back in, and make sure it's all the way in. And then I like to get up on the bike and just make sure my feet touch. That way you know when jumping on and off the bike, if there's anything going on, you know you've got your feet steady and on the ground. The other thing that I will adjust will be the handlebars, and just finding, again, a comfortable positioning for you. So you would unclip the bar from the post. What's nice is there are some numbers on here. So once you find a height level that's comfortable for you, just remember what number that is, and then it's easy to quickly jump on and make that adjustment. And again, just clip that back in, make sure it's all the way in so that it's solid. And as you're playing with it, just get on and test and just see how that feels when you're sitting and where those handlebars are.
Well, let's take a look at this 3.0 from front to back, starting with the front suspension. Now, having a front suspension in the first place has really been a game changer for this bike. You know, it's something they added on the XP 2.0, and it's really become an essential piece of equipment now on this bike. But on the 3.0 model here, they've given us a little bit more travel on the little shock absorber here. So we've got a little bit more room, a little bit more flex there that we can, you know, still adjust with this lever here on the right hand side and move it, you know, depending on how much squishiness we want. The brakes on here are similar, but they've made some improvements here. I think the flywheel, it's slightly bigger. I think it went from like 160 millimeters to 180. And a lot of people wanted the bigger flywheel, so they added a bigger flywheel. Honestly, we haven't really felt a big difference riding it, so it's kind of hard to figure out, you know, how much of an improvement it is. But I think it is an improvement to the braking. I just haven't been able to really measure it personally. But one thing you'll notice if you ride this for the first time, for the first few times, it can be a little bit noisy, and it's just because it's a new flywheel, and it takes a little time to kind of break in, and a lot of that noise will go away. But a few times we rode it, you know, it's kind of like squeak. So it's not that it's bad or anything. It's just that it's new. And of course we have our front fender and the rear fender, which is really nice to have, you know, for riding on those wet road conditions or through puddles and stuff like that. And you know, we have our 3-inch knobby tires that, you know, are very similar to what we have on the 2.0. These actually say electric on them. It's a 20-inch tire, and it's a 3-inch wide. Oh, and all the tires actually come preloaded with slime, which is one of the products you can put in the tires to help prevent, you know, you from getting a flat. You know, it's gooey stuff that fills holes. If you were to get a little puncture, it'll try to fill it because it's pressure in there, and it just lives in the tube. But usually it's something you have to add on your own, but they've gone ahead and included that as part of the bike. Now, one of the big improvements is this whole re-engineering of the rear frame of the bike. Now, let me get the white one over here because it's a lot easier to see. we can see this much clearer. So the rear luggage rack on the bikes now, you can see it's not a separate piece of equipment anymore. It's actually a bit thicker, and it's now welded to the frame here, so it's actually become part of the frame of the bike. So this whole rear end of the bike has been re-engineered. First of all, it creates a more stable frame, so it gives you a little bit more structural integrity, but it also allows for expanding the cargo carrying capacity of this bike. There's a whole new line of cargo carrying accessories that they have available now for these bikes, including one for humans. So, there's a little seat that goes on here, and gives you a little comfortable spot to sit down, and has some foot rests and a little handlebar that hooks to the seat post. Kind of cool, and they wanted to be able to support some more weight here, but it does have a maximum weight limit of 150 pounds stamped on the rack here, so FYI. But there's a few other options that you can get, different things for delivery people, like big containers and things you can get. We had a chance to see some of these things when we visited Lectric's headquarters in Phoenix recently, when they first unveiled this new 3.0 version to us. So it was really cool to kind of see what you can get for this. It really makes it a more versatile e-bike, for a lot of folks being able to customize it for your different uses and different needs.
This model comes with a new seat, which I really like. I find it very comfortable. What's different about this one is a little sleeker. I guess it has a curve in it, which matches the curve of your booty, which I like. I do find that some of the other ones tend to be more padded and they're up higher. And for me, it tends to kind of push me forward a little bit, which isn't as comfortable of a ride. Having ridden in this one, I really like this. The other thing that I really like are the new grips on the handles. They are a little gushier, which I like. I tend to grip pretty hard when I ride, and so this has made it much more comfortable for me to hang on to. I can also move them and adjust them to the position that's most comfortable for me. So I could easily move these while I'm riding if I needed to. If something just doesn't feel right, I could adjust those, but they're not loose. So you've got to put a little bit of pressure to move them, but I like that I have that option.
All right, well let's talk about those hidden features of the 3.0 that I'd mentioned earlier. Now these are things that are easily overlooked, but we can certainly feel the benefits of these upgrades. And let me start with the motor. It's actually an entirely new motor than we've had on the 2.0, and even though it seems to have the same specs, it's a 500 watt, 850 or so watt peak rear hub motor. It's much quieter, and it's a higher torque motor. Now this is going to give us a little bit more power when we need it. Now to maximize the power that you can get from this new motor, they also added an entirely new controller. So that's the little computer module that manages how much power and controls how much power you're pulling out of the motor when you start shifting and changing your pedal assist modes. The new controller can also pull more current out of the batteries. I believe the 2.0 one could max out at 18 amps of energy flowing through there, and the new one is a 20 amp controller. If you're trying to do this math in your head, you might be thinking, okay, we went from an 18 amp controller to a 20 amp controller. That's just 2 amps, so what? What's the difference? Actually, it's more significant than you think, because if we do the math, this is a 48 volt motor, so those extra 2 amps, actually if you multiply that by the voltage, which is like 48 volts or so, that gets us another 100 watts of throughput, 100 watts extra power. Now what I noticed actually riding this and trying to max it out, you can see the current reading on the display, and I've regularly seen it jump up to 21 amps. So if we're able to get, say 21 amps out of this controller and motor, then that's potentially another 150 watts, which means that we can peak out close to 1,000 watts out of this motor, which is pretty impressive, and it's a lot of power when you actually need it. For us, what does that mean? That means that we get a more powerful motor, so that improves our riding experience, especially when heading up a hill, which is when you might hit that throttle to get that power when you need it, or at those higher speeds when you really got the maximum assist going.
So the best parts of having a throttle are definitely when you are on a hill or approaching a hill. The other one is if you need to move quickly. So say you're at a stop sign, a stoplight, you're with a group and everybody's just going. And you're like, oh my gosh. So, you just want to hurry up and get moving. Another thing that's great about it is if you are in the wrong gear. So say you came up to a stop sign, stoplight, stop pretty quickly. You got your assist down, but oh no, I'm still in a high gear. It might be a little bit more difficult to match that when you get started. So you're going to use that throttle to kind of get you up to speed to where you can start pedaling, and then you can drop down your gears if you need to. That's going to help give you that power to be able to do that.
And having ridden the 2.0 for a long time, we're pretty familiar with, its capabilities and, how fast and how much power to expect from it. And when we first rode the 3.0 in Phoenix, we could totally feel the difference right out of the gate. I know Melissa, was able to, when she hit the throttle, you can really feel that it just wants to get up and go. And, I was able to actually push it in class 3 mode and try to hit the top speed, in which I was able to get to 28 miles an hour. But we wanted to also try it in a more hilly environment, which is pretty much the case here where we live in Washington. Once we were able to ride it here, we wanted to test it out on some hills that we normally would ride on. So we took it out and we just wanted to try just the throttle only, just to see, what that felt like at, its maximum potential with just the motor, no pedaling. And it did quite well. We took it up the hill, and this hill that we normally would get slightly bogged down on with the 2.0, about 2/3 up, and the 3.0 just trucked right on up the hill. Slowed down just a little bit, but it was able to actually keep a fairly decent speed actually going up this hill. And once it started peaking a little bit, then it picked up and we were cruising at like over 20 miles an hour. So pretty impressive performance from this motor. Throttle only, cruising. Still climbing uphill. Now this next upgrade has to do with the gears themselves, specifically the number of teeth on the freewheel here, or the cassette as they call it. So when we're in first gear, the chain is on this largest wheel, which has 28 teeth on it, and as we shift, it gets down to the smallest one, which is gear 7, and on the XP 2.0 that had 14 teeth on it. So that as the chain engages with those 14 teeth, can only go so fast to drive the rear wheel. Now what they did was actually reduce the number of teeth, especially on these higher gears, so the smaller wheels here. And the lowest one went from 14, now it only has 11 teeth, and I think the one next to it has 13 maybe, and it was 15, something like that. I'll need to count them again. You're probably thinking, so what? Does that make a difference? And it really does, because one of the issues that I noticed on the 2.0 is that once you start getting faster and you're at those higher gears and you're trying to up that pedal assist as you go, the motor tends to get a little bit faster than you can pedal. So once you hit those higher speeds, you lose the effectiveness of your ability to propel the bike while you're pedaling. So when I did the speed test on the 2.0, I noticed this, that I was trying to go faster and faster, and I just couldn't pedal fast enough. I just felt like a crazy person, and fast forward, really cooking it. I wasn't able to engage, as much at those higher gears. So with the fewer teeth, you're able to actually have more control and more, I guess, torque, feeling like you're propelling the bike even at those high gears, where before you just seemed to be chasing the motor. So that's been a huge improvement, and I could totally tell the difference, especially when we get to those higher speeds, and I'm able to actually push the bike a little faster and a little faster to reach a maximum speed of say around 28 miles per hour. Now before, I was struggling on the XP 2.0 to even get to 25 miles an hour. Now 28's pretty fast, and you're really still kind of pushing it to maintain 28. But what I found is that you can actually maintain about 25 miles per hour on this bike, which is important if you want to try to keep up with traffic, or you're just trying to go fast and chase down the guy that stole your other bike. So that's been a big improvement, but it's not something that I think you're going to pick up unless you read about it. You just notice it. Okay, pedal assist 5. All right, 6, 26. Now the XP 2.0 and the 3.0 actually share the same battery specs. So expect that you're going to get similar range out of the 3.0 than you would on the 2.0. Of course, it's going to vary by the way you ride, how much pedal assist and throttle you use, and what kind of terrain you're riding on. But for us, it's about 30 to 40 miles that we can typically expect on a single charge. We're just out to have fun and get around, and maybe go out with some friends for a ride. And the range we can get out of the stock battery, with pedaling and mild pedal assist, is perfectly adequate for what we need. You can get the extended range battery for this bike as well. So that add-on is still available for the 3.0. That'll give you another 20 miles, I think, or so of extra range on this bike. So I would recommend that if you can afford it. If you're not familiar with the 2.0, the step-through and the standard model have different shaped batteries, so you can't interchange the batteries there. So just keep that in mind.
I have actually ridden both of these bikes. I've ridden the step-through and the standard model. I actually started out with a step-through, which I think was probably the best thing that I could have done. I think as a new rider, it's much easier to get on and off of, to feel comfortable and confident on it. You don't really have to lift your leg very high, which is nice to get on and off. If you have mobility issues, if you're just a new rider, I just think this is just safer and will just make you feel so much more confident riding. So I rode the step through for quite a while, and then I actually tried out the standard. Now that I ride a lot more, I tend to like the standard a little bit better, and I don't have issues getting, well, I guess I do, getting on and off for the most part. But the reason I like it better is that the pedals are just a little bit higher off the ground. So it makes the positioning of the seat and the handlebars in relation to the pedal length just more comfortable for me and the way that I ride. But that's just a personal preference thing. I still think using the step through as a basic model and a beginner level bike, I think it's perfect for that, and still just an absolute great ride.
Well, I want to leave you with a few tips that'll help you out, when you're riding or owning these bikes. But before I do, if you did find this video useful or helpful in any way, and answered some questions for you, and you want to say thanks, and I know you're excited to head over to the LECTRIC website and check it out, but consider using our affiliate link when you do that. It's RVwithTito.com/LECTRIC. Easy to remember, and that'll just tell LECTRIC that we sent you and that we helped you out. And you'll help us out by buying us a beer, or maybe a cup of coffee if it's morning, or a breakfast sandwich. Yeah, I like breakfast sandwiches. Just want to throw that out, and I want you to just enjoy the bikes if you do get them. But on to the tips. Now, the first thing I would suggest is to periodically have a bike shop or some knowledgeable bike mechanic take a look at your bike every once in a while and make some adjustments and have it refitted for you. Now, this is something that it's probably a good idea to do when you first get the bike. If you don't feel comfortable doing this on your own, just have somebody take a look at it. It's just going to cost you a few bucks to have it sized and adjusted for your body style and skill level, and have the gears looked at and tuned up so that when you're shifting and you're out riding, that everything's working the way it's supposed to be working. Now, this is something that you could do yourself if you wanted to. There's videos on YouTube that will show you how to adjust the derailleur and adjust your disc brakes and things like that. So it's really not complicated. In order to do that, you're going to want to have some basic tools on hand that you would probably carry with you. One of the things you're going to want is just a nice little multi-tool here that has got a series of Allen wrenches and maybe a little screwdriver attachment, and just a few things you'll need to make these adjustments to all the things hanging off your handlebars, and a lot of the equipment and things that screw down are all adjustable with one of these tools. I always carry this with me wherever I go on the bike, and it always comes in handy. The next thing is a flat tire repair kit. You never know when you're going to need it. Every once in a while, maybe you'll get a flat or a puncture, and you can ride this as a regular bike if you're out somewhere. But if you have a flat tire and you can't get it reinflated and repaired when you're out riding, then you're walking. So this will definitely pay off. It usually comes with some patches for multiple repairs. So good thing to have. The other thing is a tire pump. You would be surprised how many people don't have any way to put air back in the tires. So you get this kind. You get the kind with the little CO2 cartridge that'll put air in your tire. I prefer this because rely on how much air I could put in with a CO2 cartridge. So get a little air pump, carry it with you. If you don't need it, maybe somebody you're with will. Now, I tend to keep our tires at about 20 to 25 PSI. Now, if we're going to be off-road a little bit, or if we're out in the boonies, I like to air them down a little bit. It creates a little bit softer ride, and it gives you a little bit more traction. Just keep that in mind. Find the right PSI or pressure that suits you. You're probably going to want a little bit more on the back, a little more pressure in the back, because that's where the majority of your weight is going to sit on the bike. The other tip is when you're actually transporting this bike, to just be careful. This is a heavy bike. It's like 64, 65 pounds. So be careful lifting it. And one of the things that I noticed when we got these is that they came with a strap. This is like a little Velcro strap. I don't know if it was part of just keeping it together and shipping, but it's a good idea to keep these and use them when you fold the bike up, and just kind of run it through the front wheel and the rest of the body and the rear to keep the front and rear together, because when you pick it up, it can get a little bit awkward and wobble around and open up on you. So I typically would use a bungee cord for that, but I've been using this Velcro strap, and it seems to work a lot better because it's not going to flex. So keep those when you unpack the bike. Don't throw them away, and it'll come in handy. Now, the other thing is that with the step through, if you do want to put it on a bike rack, there is a crossbar that you can attach, and you can get this from LECTRIC. It attaches to the neck of the bike here and also to the seat post. With the step through, because of the shape of it, it's really hard to find a place to anchor it down on a bike rack. So having that crossbar is very helpful and probably essential. The next thing is something that Melissa brought up, and that has to do with just try to get in the habit of switching your pedal assist down to pedal assist 0 which deactivates the motor when you're getting off the bike and you're just walking around. Because if you inadvertently grab that right handle and twist the throttle, the bike's going to go. So just get in the habit of shifting down maybe and turning that pedal assist down if you're going to be getting off the bike and walking it around. Now finally, I encourage you to just be safe out there when you're riding, wear the proper safety equipment. And I recommend, wearing brighter colors if you're going to be out on the road, with traffic. Like a lot of people maybe want to wear black or all this stuff, but it's really hard to see, especially when it gets dark, that you're a person on the side of the road. So consider wearing like a brighter color jacket or just things that are easily seen, on the side of the road. Don't assume that all the drivers can just automatically see you. Consider maybe even getting a really bright blinky light that you can mount on the back of the bike too. So high visibility, is better. So those are the tips I wanted to share. I hope that was all helpful, but if there's any aspect of these bikes or questions that you still have that I didn't address, drop them in the comments section. I'll try to get all of them answered and help you out in any way that I can. So the conversation always continues down in the comments section. But, have fun checking out these bikes. Make sure to go to RVwithTito.com/electric and just have fun riding, and, we'll see you out on the road. Take care.